Morning, Aaron. How's it going?
Good morning. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm
I'm good.
tired.
Makes two of us, yes. Long weekend?
Yeah. I didn't feel well. Kind of, drained me. And then yesterday the weather was terrible, so it just kind of, I don't know. It didn't, wasn't like no COVID, no flu, nothing major. Just I woke up on Saturday morning and felt like I did 3 rounds with Mike Tyson and lost all three of them, and just like a sack of bricks hit me in the head. So I spent the weekend pretty much on the couch, which you'd think would rest you up. But then I woke up this morning and I'm like, no, I'm still tired.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what happens when we go here in Wisconsin from like a whole week of 70 to instantly like 35 degrees outside. And it's been cold. It was windy. Oh my gosh, was the wind blowing? At one point it rained and then sleeted and snowed. So I get it.
yeah,
I'm with you. I kind of got the nasally nose and just kind of like, yeah, we're in that in between time of some warm days and then all of a sudden some cold days.
yeah, adaptation. I, I think you're 100% right, though. I think it's that fluctuation that's just really kind of, I don't know if your body just can't handle that all that often.
And not that quick. I mean, because we had a nice long week of 70 degrees and then boom, hello.
Yeah.
So, so you had actually some exciting news before we get into it because like your son had like a professional baseball uniform fitting.
Yeah, last night I'm experiencing more and more with this program that we're in, this new program, and what it's all about. It's just kind of interesting. So yeah, we took him up to the facility, and they tried him on for 2 sets of uniforms. He's got workout equipment, 2 pairs of shoes, helmets, and they had Easton baseball bats. Was they weren't there because of COVID, but they brought. I mean, there was shoot, I want to say 30 baseball bats and 30 softball bats there that the kid could just take and go into the cage and take some cuts with, and just interesting experience. I mean, like, saying it back when I played, it was back at the old ball fields. That was, over by Rogan's Shoes over there.
Yes,
Those
yes.
are paying attention, you probably don't know where Rogan's Shoes are, but, we had like a ballpark, and I remember my coach, opens up this garage door and looks on these wooden racks and finds the box for the 12U travel team, takes the box down, swipes off the dust to confirm that it was the 12U and not the 13U, opens it up, and here you just smell this just stink of like a BO of mothballs, and it's like, okay, get your uniforms for the year. And so everybody's, trying to grab their number, and it's a fight, and it was that way for a long time. And now you have these professional fittings and everything. It's like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? This is like one step away from the pros or something, but it's exciting. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is crazy. The same thing. I remember it for hockey was the same thing. You'd get the jersey, you could still smell the nasty sweat from last year, whoever had it. And now my kids we've got a couple sets of each, home and away jersey, more hockey socks than I care to count. It's crazy how we've uh, uh, come from what we had growing up to what it is now. It's unbelievable, but
Yeah.
for the
Do they
better.
require them all to wear the same skates, the same type of skates?
No,
No. So that's a
no,
new one for me with baseball. His teams requires them all to wear the same cleats, and that's new for me. But because we're a New Balance type family, and they require them to wear Under Armour, which is, I think, a pretty good brand as well. But they'll take some adjustment, because the New Balance baseball cleats, I think, are from my end, are the most comfortable cleats and shoes around for athletics. But we'll see how it goes.
yeah, hockey skates are a very specific foot fit based on the not even just the width and the length of the foot, but the height of the instep, the forefoot, the how your heel fits in. It's a process to get fit for a pair of hockey skates. So it's definitely left not. It's each kid can pick a brand. I mean, there's two main brands, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pick the styles inside those two brands. So no, they don't. That equipment costs so much money that they, whatever you can get.
Sure.
So, I mean, my oldest is the goalie, which is an expensive adventure. But for like a really nice pair of youth skates, and my youngest is 8, it's $600-$700 for a pair of hockey skates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
And I suppose as they get into their growing stages, you're kind of burning through $500-$600 a season, or halfway through a season.
No, we can get about a season. Maybe they play summer hockey, so we'll get through a full season and then most of the summer season in a pair, and then we'll swap out. What's nice, like we donate all our stuff back to the hockey club. So like kids that are just starting out can go and get a pair of skates for free at the club. And they're all just donations from other parents. So, that's kind of the fun part about it. Like, definitely you get hooked up with some families with kids that are a little older. And so then you can, you kind of get this hand-me-down trade-off. Like my oldest son as the goalie, his leg pads, like goalie leg pads they must be dipped in gold or something because it's ridiculous. Just for the leg pads, it's the same thing. It's like $600. And so I refuse because he just grows, and that's the problem. And so we've been lucky the last 2 seasons that we've gotten hand-me-downs and have paid, they're like, just give me $50. And, they're really nice pads, so there's a lot of that goes on, which is nice.
That's good.
So, yep. Well, I suppose we should dip into this. We're probably boring people on our kids' athletics. So, all right. Front page, you want to read it?
Sure. Leaders are the ones who run headfirst into the unknown. They rush toward the danger. They put their own interests aside to protect us or to pull us into the future. Leaders would sooner sacrifice what is theirs to save what is ours, and they would never sacrifice what is ours to save what is theirs. This is what it means to be a leader. It means they choose to go first into danger, head first toward the unknown. And when we feel sure that they will keep us safe, we will march behind them and work tirelessly to see their visions come to life and proudly call ourselves their followers.
So part 5, the abstract challenge. Abstraction kills.
Yes. So this chapter is, it's fairly short, and it's really kind of centered around 2 examples of abstraction. And they're, frankly, they're kind of 2 morbid, dark examples. We'll talk about them in slide 5. But slide 4, I kind of wanted to get everyone's head wrapped around this thing called abstraction, because there's multiple definitions of abstraction. And this one, essentially what we're talking about, and in both the morbid examples and the real life business example, it's the quality of dealing with ideas rather than events. So what we're doing is we're removing ourselves from the problem. What we tend to do is we tend to remove ourselves from the problem. We bury our heads in the sand. And we don't really realize what the actual problem is. We don't really understand the effects of it. We don't understand what we're doing. We just do something. So it's more of a reactivity than it is anything. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about abstraction. We're not talking about, I think another definition is like removing something from another thing, like abstracting a fish from water or something like that. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with ideas and events here, which I think is important to understand. So slide 5, they talk about the 2 examples. This SS torture, which was the first example, they were talking about how they tortured prisoners of war in World War II, and how the SS soldiers became essentially conditioned to the fact that they were doing these things, not with the understanding of the effects of the human being that they were doing it to. They were just simply following orders. And that's, after you do that for so long, the humanity part of it is removed from the equation, and you're just essentially following orders.
Yeah.
The second part is this Professor Milgram proposed this study, which was actually, honestly, it was kind of sick, I thought. But back in that time frame, I believe it was in the 20s or 30s or something, when they were doing experiments on mindsets, and you had like the TB tests back then, and all those interesting tests. What he had proposed was a series of tests where there would be a set of buttons in front of a said person, and those buttons, depending on which one they pushed, would provide electric shock essentially to another person. And you were given ranges all the way from a nice little finger prick all the way up to death. You could literally push a button and shock somebody that would kill them. And they were basically told to push the buttons from one end to the other, and they were told just to push them. And they were told not to do anything else but push them. That was your direct order, was to push them. Well, they set up different sets of experiments. One was that the person was in the same room as the other person. One was that they were in another room, but they could hear the person and see the person. One, they could not hear them, but they could see them. And then one, they could not even see or hear. And consequently, what you saw was that those that were in the room with the person stopped to a point where they didn't want to cause harm or danger to the other person. And then as you moved away, it got to the point where they were in the other room, not able to hear or see. They were just doing the tests all the way through and through. Now, they never did actually kill anybody, but they were given that choice. And what was interesting to see was that progression as they moved away, as they were removed from the situation, how inhumane another person could be to another person, solely on the fact that they just can't be in that same room and understand the pain and anguish that they're going through. So as you read the chapter, you're like, oh my God, this is really, where are we going with this? You're just giving me 2 examples of how inhumane people can be. But the bottom line is, we do stuff like that very similarly in everyday business life. We remove ourselves so far from a situation. I'm not saying everybody here, and I'm not saying in every situation, but in some situations, we do remove ourselves so far from the problem that we don't understand the actual human cause. I'll give you an example. Last night I was watching a Netflix series. It was called Dirty Money. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but it was called Dirty Money. And it talks about, don't ask me why I was watching it, but I just felt like watching some funny Netflix stuff on Dirty Money. So the story was about Jared Kushner, the executive consultant to President Trump, how Jared Kushner became how the Kushner family came to fame with their money. So what the story is Jared Kushner owns a whole bunch of properties in New York, a whole bunch of, he's essentially what they would call a slumlord. There's all these stories about all these apartments that Jared Kushner owns, Jared Kushner's companies own, that aren't up to keep. And they had all these examples. These people had like water leaking from their ceiling, ceilings collapsing, stuff's not built properly, causing, essentially human harm. But then on this flip side, what you see somebody like Jared Kushner just signing off all these eviction notices, all these notices to sue people, all these, skirting around all these business practices. So what I'm saying here is like, Jared Kushner is so removed from the problem that he's just signing these things, and he probably has no knowledge of what he's even signing. He's just signing them, and off they go. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have all these people that are actually suffering because they can't live in a decent place to live. Because there's water coming in, there's mold problems, there's ceilings falling, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm talking about on that end. That's a very blown up example. And a real life example is that you go through and you fire people, or you suspend people, or you garnish wages, or whatever you're doing maybe as a form of punishment, without truly understanding the actual effect that it's causing on that person that you're doing it to.
Yeah, that yes, and a lot of times too, I think it's just people. It's sometimes it's hard to confront the reality, right? So you hide from it, and then you don't have the effect, and you can go about your day, right? Or at least that's the mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, understand that, like in this day and like right now in this time frame, a lot of us are in that open enrollment. We're trying to understand or trying to negotiate as business owners what our best policies are for our company moving forward. So when you're sitting there looking at these two policies, you got policy A here that's going to put $5,000 back in your pocket over the course of next year, but it's going to cut a whole bunch of benefits for your employees. Maybe you need to think a little bit harder about option B versus option A. Sometimes that $5,000 back in your pocket is not the best option. And that's what we'll be talking about in these next up and coming chapters is making these choices that are going to affect other people in a negative way. But sometimes they look really good on paper. They look really great on paper. You're saving 1% or 2% here or there. Just understand that there is a cause and effect for each choice that you make.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you came up with some other definite or examples of abstraction, because you're right. The two that were in the book were a little rough.
Yeah, they are. There probably could have been two better ones chosen, but I'm not going to argue with the author on this one. But it is, it does, I think as well, the first example really kind of portrays if we're not business owners, but we're managers, and we as managers are told by our ownership to push these guys to the bone, push them 60, 70 hours a week. I don't care if they can't, go home and rest and see their families. I don't care. Get it done. And managers are told, I'm just following orders. This is not my directive. We just have to get it done. Again, there's a cause and effect, and you sit there and you ask yourself why you can't hire and retain good employees. It's because on your end, you're seeing the fact that you want to get a job done to push them on to a next one to put more coin in your pocket on the profitability side of things. But on the other end, you're literally working guys to death, and they're not happy. They're tired. They're probably more prone to injury. But we're pushing them harder and harder and harder. It's not always the right thing to do.
Yep. Yeah, I know of some examples of companies where managers were literally just middlemen. I mean, they had no real power, authority, ability to make a decision of their own. And, the team below them figured it out pretty quick. And then you start seeing, there's a mass exodus. Like, first of all, I'm not going to go around and do that. And second of all, if all we're going to ever do is if all it's ever going to be is a dictatorship of, not letting us make up our own decisions or our own minds or whatever, things fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do.
So, yeah, that was it was a short chapter.
It is. It's short, but it does kind of set the table. I think, abstraction is kind of the key point that we're going to be moving into, I think, the next 2 or 3 chapters, to be honest with you. So I think the examples were poignant to bring out what abstraction really was and still is today. Again, the examples are a little on the morbid side, but I think it does kind of set that table for the chapters moving forward.
Yeah. So what do we have coming up?
Modern abstraction. So we're talking about it more in a modern sense. We've kind of talked about that, some examples of that to begin with, but we'll also look at some other examples in the modern workplace, what abstraction is. And, I think we really need to wholeheartedly understand how that does affect our businesses, because if we're clueless on our business and we're just looking at the bottom line, or we're looking at proposal A over proposal B, that's when we're going to start having troubles. Again, this goes back to everything that we've been talking about being human, about having empathy, things of those nature. These are topics that are going to keep circling around over and over and over again. Being a real human to your employees, to your coworkers. That's what it's all about. It isn't always about saving a buck. It isn't always about cutting the bottom line to benefit your shareholders. It's not always about that. So that's what we're going to be talking about, I think, here in the next couple chapters.
Well, and it is too. We always talk about being able to, at certain levels, you can see that 30,000-foot view, but sometimes the 30,000-foot view, is too high, right? Like, it's great. You need to know the overall picture, but if you're that far up, you don't know what's going on the ground, right? Like, you don't know what the feel is and things like that. So, yeah, I think we're going to continue to see some of that as we talk further on about abstraction.
Yeah, and I totally get the argument if somebody wants to come back and say, well, if I don't push my guys, nothing ever gets done. I totally agree with that. I do. I 100% agree with that. You have to push your people. You have to expect a lot out of your people. There's nothing wrong with that either. But there's something wrong with working them to the bone, working them extremely hard, not taking time to appreciate what has been done or where you're going or what are the key factors that are really pushing for success in the future. I think that has to be done. There are times they get busy, but I think if we can all be human and understand that, hey, Nate, if you can do this for me, I can do this for you. We can work on this together versus, Nate, just get it done. I don't care what you do, get it done. I don't care who you bury. I don't care who you hire, who you fire. Yeah. Get it done. That's the wrong way to approach it. The better way to approach it is, Nate, you take this, I take that. You let me know if you have any struggles. I'll help you as much as I can. You help me as much as you can. That's a better way to approach it. It's a team approach. It's empathetic. It's human. I understand, where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from. Communication obviously is very key. These are very important factors. And I think these are things that and it's certainly in the manufacturing side, and I could probably say the same for the installation construction side. Those are things that are missing. We tend to look too much at the job or the task and not look at the path that needs to get to get there. The people that are going to be involved, that's what we don't look at. We just look at the task and we try to figure out what's the easiest way to get there. That's all we think about. We don't look at the people, and that's what we need to look at, is look at the people.
Yep. Well said. All right, so modern abstraction coming up. And I think we're good still. Same time, same place, same bat channel.
Yeah, we got Thanksgiving right around the corner. Oh, my Lord. Man,
I know. Boy, is this year
November,
by.
This year has. This month, I cannot believe it. Thanksgiving is next week. I was looking at, with COVID, the modified, we're obviously not going to do any family gatherings this year. We're just going to sit at home because we're kind of thinking like just having a lazy Thanksgiving. It's like I don't even want to cook. Like I just have my turkey pre-made or something. I don't know.
I know. We just canceled. I don't know, canceled or whatever. Thanksgiving, usually it's never huge, but I know I'm with you too. It's going to be lazy Thanksgiving this year.
I want to try out my smoker, and that's what I'm thinking about doing. But then the other half of me is like, no, just get a pre-made dinner and just bring it in and just do nothing. I'm like,
sit on the couch. And, yep.
Pros and cons to both. At least we still got football.
You can get. Don't they have I saw somebody had turkey spam, right?
Yeah. not a canned turkey guy.
Oh man, yeah. So all right. Well, Aaron, as usual, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And we will dive in more next week.
Sounds good. Have a great week.
You too.